All right, welcome back to our series on agentic AI in DataRobot. This is the second video in the series. This is going to build upon the previous session where we built a Crew AI agentic workflow in a Jupyter Notebook. In this session, we will use that workflow from that Jupyter Notebook that has already been ported into a Python file. So we basically just took the logic and put that in a Python file, and we were going to integrate that into a deployment inside of DataRobot. And to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our next Git repo. I'm going to grab the files that I need. So I'll clone that to this same code space that I had run before. And so I'm still outside of the virtual environment. And so I am going to download that, and it'll be parallel to the labs that we have in here. So we'll have the files for this lab, which are going to be lab number 2, deploying Crew AI into DataRobot. So what I want to do now, before I get into this, actually I'm going to open the setup. So what this will do is going to help me set up my deployment with all of the environment variables, with all of the commands and everything that I need to get this deployed. And so what I've done already is I have downloaded the, or I've cloned the repo and brought it here. And I'm going to get started with the process to get this deployed. And so what I've done as well is this is the same repo that we did in the same code space that we did in the previous lab. And so we did this Crew AI lab number 1. And so we've got lab number 2, deploying Crew AI into DataRobot. And this agent setup guide is the walkthrough on how to get that developed agent into DataRobot. So now I'm going to go back to that repo, and I've actually put the repo link here so you can find that when you grab the original labs. So I'm going to go back into our root folder here, root storage folder here, and I'm going to open the repo that I had just run. And so I've got ability to deploy agents, different types of agents, Crew AI, a generic one, LangGraph, and Llama Index. And this is constantly updated, so we have more of these coming out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to run the quick start. Actually, before that, I need to set up my environment variables. In this case, since I'm running a code space, I don't need to set my my environment variables for my API key or my endpoint, because that's already assigned to the environment when you spin up this this code space. But I'm still going to create that environment variable file, the env file. And so in that folder, that is the root folder for that repo, for the deployment repo. So I'm going to go to cd DataRobot agent templates. I'm going to copy that file. And so that file just appeared here. And so again, if I'm using something like PyCharm or VS Code or Cursor, I would put my tokens here, my token here, and my endpoint. You can find those under API keys and tools in DataRobot. So if you want to create a specific API key, you can do that, or reuse one that you've got. And then the endpoint is also displayed in there for your installation. All right, so I'm going to set my Pulumi passphrase, and this is the passphrase for the component that we use to do the deployments. I'm going to use the LLM gateway because we set that up in the previous one. I'm going to use the deployment ID, or I'm not going to specify the deployment ID because it's going to create a new one. And since I'm actually modifying the base environment with that tool, I'm going to remark out this file. So we can't forget that. If you do not remark that out, you will get an error if you actually add any additional tools to this like we are. So now we've got this set up. We don't need to make any additional changes just yet. So this should be good for now. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to run the quick start, which is shown here. So I'm going to run python quickstart.py. So if you have in your environment, if you've got Python 3 specified in your command, you run Python 3 quickstart.py. In this case, this code space has just Python, and see Python quickstart.py. I'm going to run that, and what this does is it asks you which agent environment you want to set up. In this case, we're going to choose Crew AI, so I'm going to choose number 1. And what that does is it cleans out all of the other extra framework stuff that you don't need for Crew AI, so it only leaves the stuff that you need. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use task to install the rest of the components that we need. So this is actually running, this task is executing UV to create different virtual environments with the requirements that we need. And so this actually is a lot faster, and it compartmentalizes each of these steps. So when we run this locally, it'll have its own virtual environment. There'll also be another virtual environment that's created to do the deployment. And so that is created. We've got these prerequisites set up. And so now I'm going to move on to the next step. All right, before we start copying any files, I want to go over some changes that were made to the original file that's in the DataRobot agentic templates Git repo. So what we've done here is we've actually gone down and incorporated the changes from the Jupyter Lab notebook that we had in the previous exercise in the previous lab. And I've actually incorporated the agentic flow from that lab. And so we made some changes into here, and I've also specified a different model here. So I've included a couple of different model options in remarks, but if you want to use a different model, you can use one of the ones that are listed in the Jupyter Notebook from the previous exercise where we listed all the ones available. So the advantage of this is that when you're using the LLM gateway in DataRobot, you can choose from any of these LLMs as a backend or as a brain, so to speak, for your agentic workflow. So in this case, we're going to use Vertex AI Gemini 2.5 Flash. I like this because it provides a good response and it's pretty quick. So I encourage you to go in and play with different LLMs when you're experimenting with the LLM gateway. So again, one of the things that we did here is we've changed the agent. So this is a multi-agent workflow. So we've got two. It's got a researcher and a writer agent, and then we've incorporated the tasks. And these are just the same descriptions, the same setup that we did from our previous lab, and we just incorporated it into here. So when we deploy this, it's using our lab. We've also incorporated the tools. If I can find that in here, or the tool that we're deploying with it. Let me just find tool. And to make this easier, I'm just going to search for the word tool or search tool. Explore tool. And so we've got that tool defined here, but we also imported that up here. So we'll include the search underscore tool .py, and then we'll import that function from that Python file. So the next step is we're going to copy these files over into the new repo, and then we will deploy the agentic workflow with our new agentic workflow and the accompanying tool that it's needed. And for that next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab agent.py and searchtool.py from our previous labs. And just to make it easier during this demo, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to grab this from another screen. And I'm going to go back into Crew AI, custom model. So I'm going to go into this folder right here, and I'm going to replace agent.py, and then I'm going to add the searchtool.py from the previous. And now I'm going to add searchtool.py. So I've added those two. And add the required packages. So now I'm going to go into the Agent Crew AI folder. And I'm going to use UV to add packages. So UV add DDGS, which is required for the search tool, because that Python file, that Python script uses the DuckDuckGo search API. And so I've included that. So now that'll be for a local environment. So now when we deploy this, we want that to be deployed with it as well. So now I'm going to go into the agent crew AI, the Docker context and requirement.in file. So now I'm going to go back up here, and then I will go to one more up. And then now I will go to the infra. Actually, no, this is Docker context, if I can find that. Agent crew AI, I was in the right folder before. And Docker context, and now I will go into here and add to requirements.in just DDGS. In this case, we're not going to specify the version. We're not really concerned about that right now. Later on, when you start deploying this stuff and you start locking down versions, you'll want to do that there. So now that is updated. And so what's going to happen next is I'm going to run this command here. And what that's going to do is it's going to create the script. It's going to run the script to populate the requirements.txt file from the requirements.in, and then do everything that's necessary to include all of that when we run the deployment script, which actually uses a tool called Pulumi. All of this is automated, so if you just follow these scripts, you won't get confused with all the different tools. So now I'm going to copy this and run it from the Docker context folder in the command prompt for the terminal. So cd Docker context, and I'm going to paste that in there and run that. And so it's using UV to populate that, and we can look and see. Thankfully, these are alphabetical. I'll scroll up. We just want to find DuckDuckGo or DDG right here, DDGS. So we installed that version. So when we deploy this, that will be included. So now I am going to go to the next step, and I'm going to test this locally. Copy this, and this will be from the root folder, I think. This will be Agent Crew AI. So I'm going to go up one folder, and we're going to run this locally. So this is a test of the agent locally, just to make sure that it works before we deploy it. This will take a couple of minutes, but it's spinning up our DataRobot environment here, a mini environment here, and it's going to run it. And so there it goes. So there's our agent that's going, and it's testing it with that user prompt that we included. And so it's going through there. And so this should return a output as we expect from the agent in the platform. You can see it's using the search tool, and it's actually on the second task already. And I'm going to pause and let this run. Oh, never mind. I'm going to let it run. And so this is actually output from that agent run. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the next step in the setup guide. So now I'm going to do task build and then task deploy. So what this is going to do is I'm going to run task. Move that out of the way. Task build. Actually, that should be from the root folder because I specify that up here, I believe. Project root folder. Yes. So project root will be the DataRobot agent templates. So I'm going to go up one folder. So now I'm going to run task build, and I'm going to create a new stack. And I'm going to call this YouTube deployment video. So now it's going to create a bunch of assets, or identify a bunch of assets, and now it's going to create it. And this will take you a few minutes, so I will pause and then come back. All right, so now this is built the model inside of DataRobot. It's given me a chat endpoint, custom model ID, all the information I need. This is our agentic playground link here. And so since that's all done, I'm going to go ahead and do a task deploy. What this will do is we'll take that model and deploy it. And this will take a few minutes, and then what I'll do is I'll come back and we'll go into the GUI. So I'm just going to do the same process before, but with deploy. And it's going to create some additional resources and deploy them, and we'll go in and inspect that once that's done. So I will pause again, and I will be back when this is done. And so now we're back, and this is finished deploying. Let me scroll up a little bit real quick. And so this tells you how long it took to deploy. And we've got our output here, our deployment ID, our custom model chat endpoint. This is the same as from when we did the build. Everything in green here is actually new. So we've actually got a chat endpoint with a deployment in DataRobot, not just in the playground. And we've got a deployment ID. So what I like to do here, especially when I'm going to be using this agent for different applications and whatnot, I like to copy this and I create a text file either on my computer or in the code space. So I'm going to create a file. I'm going to say info.txt, create that, and then just paste everything in there. So that way I've got it saved here. If I ever need to look it up, I don't need to type additional commands. I can just look at that text file. So now we will pop over to the UI. I'm actually going to click on the playground. That's the model endpoint or chat endpoint. I'm going to go into the AI or agentic playground, which is right here. So that'll take us into here, and then next we'll start working with the playground. All right, so now we're going to go to our playground. So now we're starting back in the landing page when you first log into DataRobot, and I'm going to go into use cases. And this is the use case that I created for this lab, for this video. And so now we've got a registered model, a agentic playground that was created, and this is the code space that we've been working in. So now I'm going to go into this playground. And so I've got a little chat prompt here, and I'm just going to put in this string here and tell the agent what to look for. So this taking a couple of minutes, so I will pause and come back. All right, we are back now, and so this is the response that I got. It took a minute or two. This will always take a little longer the first time you run it because it's going to spin up for the first time. But so I asked it to tell me the latest developments in AI in 2025. And what it did is it went through our agentic workflow, used these DuckDuckGo search engine to build an analysis, and then built a blog post. And so what I can do is I can look at the tracing and look at everything that has happened in the timeline of this workflow. And so every time you give it a prompt and a response, it's going to do you can do some tracing on each of those responses. You can do some grading, copy the response. And then in our next video, we will get into some deeper level tracing, some response evaluation, and we'll compare different workflows together to look at different response times and different models with different evaluations and just compare different results. With that, so we'll conclude this video and we'll see you in the next one.